This is the way to build trust, because you don't hide behind the text, you don't hide behind the email.
Gleb Gordeev built his product management career in Germany, working at leading companies. Currently, he runs his agency Kodebusters from exotic locations like Bali, launching awesome products for early stage startups in just 30 days.
There are a few steps which you can do before actually designing your product to validate your idea.
Hey, I'm your host, Gabe Marushka with the Entrepreneur Show. Quick one before the episode starts. About 80% of you watching, you didn't hit that follow or subscribe button. If you get any value from this, if the stories we share and the learnings that you get from my guests help you or your business in any way, can you please do me a favor and hit that follow or subscribe button? It helps the show more than you can even imagine. And the bigger the show gets, the better the guest gets. Thank you so much and enjoy the episode. Gleb, please tell us, what's Kodebusters?
Kodebusters, it's a product studio which helps entrepreneurs and founders to bring their ideas to reality way faster than they expect and way faster than other agencies. Basically, the technology right now democratizes software development. So it's never been easier to build a product using no code, using AI automations. On the other hand, the competition is very fierce. There are so many people uploading their products. Everyone wants to build an app. People want to build websites. They want to get famous. They want to change the world. Or they also want to have a side project which will give them some passive income. So in Kodebusters, we combine product expertise, because it doesn't matter how great your idea is without a solid product foundation. It might be that you will never find your product market fit and nobody will ever use your product. So we combine that with technology which cuts the time and cuts the cost. So in the end, we have the solution for people who would like to launch a startup with a solid product foundation and way faster and way cheaper than traditional software development.
That's amazing. And what I love about the approach is that you go to market fast. And often that's the roadblock a lot of startups are facing. And I'd love to ask about your approach, because a lot of people are struggling with this. And going to market in just 30 days, it's a really short period of time. What that foundation means, actually.
So basically, the process goes like that. The first week we spend for so-called rapid product discovery. So we do market research, we talk to potential users, we use a lot of AI tools to automate some of the repetitive processes. So that's why we can shorten this in 1 week, right? So we dive deep into the problem, we streamline the market research, we analyze a lot of data about the problem the product is trying to solve, but also for the solution. Then we start with rapid prototyping, again, using some automation tools and also with the top UX UI experts. First low fidelity prototype, then high fidelity prototype, and then we use no code to build the first version of the product. And meanwhile, we think about the launch strategy. We coach founders how to make some content about their product, how to have some visibility, also create a little bit of show with the upcoming launch, and create a landing page, generate signups for the waiting list. So the moment when development is done and we tested the product, we already have a bit of the reputation. We have a bit of noise around this product as well. So it means that there will be some interest in this product and potentially even some signups and maybe paid members as well.
Often ideas are not scarce. People have a lot of them and they just don't know what idea to approach before actually going to market. How do you find that to be the case for your clients?
I believe that MVP shouldn't be the first, let's say, iteration of your product. There are so many ways how you can validate your idea before you even start building an MVP. So as I said, we have this service to launch a startup in 30 days. I think this might be even too early for you if you just have an idea. I always recommend my prospects when I have discovery calls to say, let's maybe build a few landing pages and put some traffic on them and see which one of them resonates better. Let's create some content and see how people react to that. So there are a few steps which you can do before actually designing your product to validate your idea. And I only believe in data. I've launched a lot of projects myself, which I was in love, but there was no demand for this problem. There was not enough traction. And I always try to be the one who kind of brings bad news to founders and say, okay, look, are you in love with your idea or are you in love with the business? Do you want to make a profitable company, right? Which will also generate revenue, or you just want to do the product for the sake of doing an app? So usually people say, okay, let's check the business first. And then, as I said, trying to find out this pre-MVP validation, I would say.
And what's a valid idea? How much interest has to be there in order to advise someone to go with that idea to actually build an MVP?
It can be absolute and it could be relative. If we have a few different landing pages and we do the smoke test, right? So we say, buy this product or download this app. So then we compare these landing pages and see which of the messaging, which of the maybe feature set, which we show makes more sense, which resonates more with people. But if we talk about absolute, so just to say, is it valid or is it not valid? It depends from project to project. So there is no one formula which would say, I believe that if we can generate signups for the waiting list, and if we collect around 20 or 50 people who are interested, coming from organic content, coming from ads, I would say it's already a good validation. But on the other hand, I only believe into what people say when they pay for that, right? And then we build profitable businesses, and people can say, I love your product. And it comes the same with, let's say, with the agency. People say, yes, let's do it. Let's work on that. But only when money comes to the bank account, this means that the person is committed. And I always try to communicate this with people, like, it's amazing if people show interest. It's amazing also that people upvote your product, like let's say on Product Hunt, or they show some traction in comments and they resonate with your idea. They say, yes, of course, I would buy it. Ask for money. This will be the strongest validation ever. And if there is a chance to really, in B2B startups, it's a bit better. Just make 200 phone calls, call everyone you know, explain them the product, explain them the features, and ask for some payment in advance, maybe a letter of intent. If there is opportunity for that, I strongly recommend to do this, because this is the most solid validation of your idea with people's money.
Absolutely, because everyone gets excited, they enjoy the idea, they love it, they say, I will join, I will use the product and so on. And they end up not doing so if they don't put the money where the mouth is. And yeah, usually it's as easy as putting down deposit, like a small amount to make them committed. And we can also give them a full refund if you don't actually validate the idea and you don't start building it. And yeah, there are many ways to validate. What's your main sources of leads?
For answering the question, I need to tell you that this whole running a business, it's a totally new role for me. I used to be a product manager. I built my career in product management, and running a business, running an organization is something which is relatively new for me. And I'm learning every day about lead generation sources, right? So where to find clients. And every day for us, it's like existential question to experiment a lot and to find these people. So I was following the framework from Alex Hormozy. He suggests that first you start with your warm contact, with your network, and ask everyone you know. So this is what I actually did in the beginning, and I offered some service for free to my warm contacts for exchange of reviews and maybe some shout outs if they know anyone. So I recommend this to everyone who starts a service-based business, just to get some traction. And also it's a safe space for you to kind of polish your offer, to see what you can improve, collect feedback from these people. And I talked to some amazing founders during this time, collect so much great feedback, which allowed us to really nail down our product. Then once I had these reviews and when I have a bit of credibility, I started to do cold outreach with emails. And I was doing this for a few months, not working at all. And I was very disappointed, even demotivated with this, because I received so many rejections. And I was putting a lot of my energy and a lot of effort into crafting, let's say, personalized emails, giving lead magnets, giving some value in cold emails, experimenting with who is my target audience, what's the response rate, what's the interest rate. All of this, I would say, was a waste of time, but I learned a lot. This is the biggest outcome from this. Right now, we have two, let's say, major sources of leads. The first one is still our connections. I have a professional network which I've built throughout my career. With every case, we have more credibility, we have more to show to prospects, right? I think this is the biggest obstacle between you and the client when you do service business, is the lack of trust. For many people, you're just a random person from the internet. They don't know you, and then you ask them to pay you money. They are afraid that you're going to just take the money and not deliver, because many of the seasoned founders in tech, they already have experience with that. Like, I've heard this so many times. Like, I used to work with some agency, they didn't deliver, I just wasted money. And the second one is organic content. So while I was doing the outreach, I also started to put a bit more content on LinkedIn, also to engage with people, engage with my ideal customer profile, with founders, also product leaders from startups. And I could see some traction there. So I have more and more discovery calls coming from my LinkedIn activity. I started to do webinars as well. So every week we host a webinar. Again, I don't expect it to skyrocket the number of leads, but it's a really helpful routine to have. So every week there is a webinar. We do it no matter what. Even if nobody shows up, we do it because we also do it for us. I can repurpose this for the content. I can polish further my message and the way how I present our service, the way how I talk about this. So basically, for Q2 right now, this will be my main strategy. I decided to completely drop cold outreach and only focus on scaling the content, but again, not only with quantity, but mostly with quality. So everything I learned working with startups, I try to also spread the word and share with my audience. And I already see it pays off.
I love the way you started, because it's one of the most underrated ways to get traction at the beginning. Showcasing your work for free, working on some free projects. And that way you build trust, you build case studies, you experiment, you get feedback. It's one of the most valuable things in everything that we do, because who else knows better what they need than our clients? And I feel you when you said that cold outreach. I tried only once as well. And oh boy, it was draining, like just putting a lot of effort, a lot of energy. I'm pretty sure I wasn't doing correctly either. I talk with others that works wonderfully for them, the cold outreach, and they have an approach in which they initiate first a conversation without providing a lot of value or effort in that message. They just initiate a conversation through a question or something that can get the discussion going. At least personally, I found that warm outreach works best in that situation. When, for example, on LinkedIn, someone interacts with you, you ask them a question, why they connect, why they enjoy that post or what, something to initiate a conversation. And sooner rather than later, that will lead to finding something about them and validate them if they are a good lead for you or it's someone that is just interested to build their LinkedIn connections and just that. And here's something for you and for those listening that works well: partnership marketing. You literally partner with someone that is in probably the same industry, offering complementary services that have a big audience in which you can tap to, and doing this that you're already doing, webinars, workshops for their audience. You build that credibility, you build that trust. And of course, those that join that webinar workshop, you can add them to an email list, and that you build your email list as well. And I'm not sure why people are not using this more often. I basically started my business like this, partnering with an SEO agency. They weren't doing web design, and I was doing the web design for them. And from that moment, everything took off. But yeah, it's a really underrated way.
It's not really on the surface, like what you said. It's a really creative method. And of course, there are thousands of ways how to do it. I just have one more comment about the cold outreach. Why I stopped doing this. It's not because it didn't give the results I expected, to be honest. I could push more. I'm the person who is like really committed. I would say, let's scale it to thousands and then we see. So what I realized is that when you hide behind an email, you also hide your unique advantages. So when you send a stranger an email, which everyone can do, and usually the strangers receive 20 emails like this every day, you hide your personality, you hide your tone of voice, you hide your original story, you hide everything which makes you different from others. So you compete with billion of people who has the most original email, but it's a very red ocean, right? So with building an audience, and again, like Gary was talking about this for the last 20 years, but it took me many years to really come and see this. Only when I started to have my own service-based business, I started to see how important is that to really build trust. Because when people see you exactly as you are, and I'm not trying to pretend to be someone who I'm not, right? Everyone knows that I'm struggling. Everyone knows that the game is difficult, but I'm enjoying this. I'm sharing some personal updates as well with my network. And I think this is the way to build trust, because you don't hide. You don't hide behind the text. You don't hide behind the email. And as I said before, I think trust is the biggest obstacle between you and your client. And when people see you as a person, not as text, you can really build trust. Not in one day, not in 2 days, but I believe in a few weeks or in a few months, for sure, those people say, okay, I think he's legit and I will trust him, my money and my project, the success of my project.
I love that approach because at the end of the day, as humans, we resonate with others that are like ourselves. And putting your voice out there, showing who you truly are, and especially with those weekly webinars, putting yourself on video, it will make those that jump in a sales call with you, they already know you. They already heard you speak. They already know how it feels to be there. And that's another way to actually build a connection. And I'll say that those that already walk the path, like you mentioned, Gary, or others that are they push their credibility and their personal brands out there through their personal stories to their day-to-day things. It's one of the best way to actually build a personal brand. And you mentioned that you start doing that on LinkedIn. Are you present on any other social platforms where you are pushing your personal brand, or just starting with LinkedIn right now?
I'm now focused on LinkedIn just because my network there was the biggest. And I think LinkedIn is a bit more for the blue ocean. I guess there is still some space. In general, still vast majority of people don't see LinkedIn as a platform for creators. They see it as a very corporate and boring, but LinkedIn has been changing for a while into true social media, not like a hiring platform. So I think it's a big advantage and opportunity there. I have Instagram, but it's more for personal use. I'm not planning to grow it. I think, again, my focus right now is to scale the business. And I think my growth on Instagram will unlikely to help. But what I did recently, and again, it took me, it's like a bit of the sharing some personal vulnerabilities. Like I started a YouTube channel recently, and it took me ages to do this. Like I was always postponing it and thinking like, even I want to start a YouTube channel, I want to post some videos. I was always postponing, but now I said, okay, let's do it. 2024, let's transform the way how I talk on the camera. Let's transform the way how I put myself out of there. So I want to grow the YouTube channel and LinkedIn. And I believe, again, for the business, it will be probably the most optimal channels.
Yeah, and I think you're right because they can show your true expertise. And people on LinkedIn are there for business, most of them. And you can show that on YouTube, the second biggest search engine out there after Google. It's such an underrated discovery platform. And I wish I start, for example, posting this podcast earlier there. I started last year the podcast, but I started posting video just this year, and it helped a lot. So best of luck with that. I'm sure that YouTube will be a huge platform for you moving forward. And I would love to have a brainstorm of creativity here around the cold outreach thing. Because even that was so many learnings there, I feel we can create something for those listening to make it work. Cold outreach through video. How that will work in your opinion?
I've been trying this, so it depends how much time you want to spend on this. So there is option one when you do personalized videos. Let's say you do personalized Loom. So what I was doing, I had an experiment. I was sending the Loom video with analysis of the landing page of my prospect. So I go to the landing page and I see, I think this could be improved. Maybe this could be improved to increase your conversion rate. I was giving them some tips about their product, and I just included this very personalized, tailored Loom video, which took me like 1 hour to create, right? Because I need to really sit down, study everything about the person, study everything about the product and about the landing page, create it, record it, send it. Another one is when you just make a video about yourself, maybe 30 seconds, about the problems that you can help with, and say, hi, we're doing this. Probably you struggle, or people like you struggle with this kind of problems. Last quarter, we solved them for this kind of client. If you like it, give us a call. I would say these two things which I tried, none of them performed great, but it's not necessarily because of the video. It's not necessarily because of the content of the email. With the cold outreach, you might be totally wrong with the person who you send it to. So I would recommend to everyone before they start cold outreach to be crystal clear about who is your ICP. You need to think very creatively, like how many months this person in this job, what is this job, what's their work experience, where did they study, and what was their previous role, what are their motivations, because this will be the time where you can make the difference. Let's say if I'm targeting, let's say, founders of Series A startups, I'll receive 1 million people, but I want to find 50. I want to find 50 people who'll be ideal for me. And then for 50 people, I invest 50 hours to make outstanding, exceptional videos. But for me personally, the challenge was to really find out who are these people.
Yeah, true, because I think reaching out to those exact ICP of yours, it's so hard. Because, as you mentioned, there can be millions of people there that fit that, but exact specific, the ones that you want to work with, the one that will actually make a great case study after that, is so freaking hard to find. And not to mention with cold outreach, you never know the position that person is in their business or in their life when you're reaching out to them. Probably you might be a really good fit for them, but you reach out at the wrong time. That's why inbound is so important, and building that personal brand and attracting people to you rather than chasing them, it's gold. And in order for those listening or watching us to learn even more on how to get clients, what will be your next step in order to attract them into your world while building your personal brand?
I would like to scale my content production. So I started to put more short videos and see, like, I make them from different angles, from different styles. So I'm still learning. I don't think I'm great in talking on the camera, but I want to improve this year. So this experiment number one, to really put more. So I already see that engagement with LinkedIn is working. I see that it brings interest to my profile and also to the business because I represent the company. So I would like to scale it. I would like to do 5x of what I'm doing right now. What is also extremely important for, let's so-called like LinkedIn outreach, is engagement with others. First of all, LinkedIn algorithm favors this. But secondly, it's crucial to build authentic connections with people and also give them value and learn from them. I need to spend a lot of time just replying to comments, talking with people in DMs, and I would like to write valuable comments to contribute to the discussion. I believe this way will work so much better than sending an email. If you know your person, if you know who you want to target, and you really give them value, you contribute to their discussions, you engage with their content, I think it's a so much higher chance to be noticed by them than to just send them an anonymous email from the person they never met before. So let's say I'm really bullish on LinkedIn. I believe this year will be the time when I will grow there a lot. Another thing which I want to experiment with is in real life events, to host business branches, community meetups. I would love to do eventually, I'm not sure if I can still do this year, but some sort of a conference or summit to make so much visibility for my studio that people will associate the name Kodebusters with experiences they had on this conference, with innovation, with maybe be a little bit of rebellious when it comes to product management and product development. So I would say this would be my two main goals. And in addition to that, I started to write blogs, like blog articles on the website to improve the SEO. And again, this content can be repurposed for short videos, can be repurposed for LinkedIn posts, for basically, yeah, it's all about the content, I would say. Even my short videos I usually repurpose from my LinkedIn posts, which had the most engagement, and the other way around. If I see something resonates with people, maybe I have a conversation with somebody and they say, okay, this idea is so interesting, I never heard this before. I make a post and I make a video, and then, yeah, more people know about this idea.
That sounds great, Gleb. But here's the thing. You mentioned a lot of things. You run an agency. You love surfing. You're based in Bali. How did you manage to do all these things?
That's an excellent question. With years, I realized that if you want to build a surfer career, probably everything else will struggle. My mission is to create a business which supports my lifestyle. And I need to find a balance. Like a proper surfer, I need to find a balance, right? I need to be very disciplined. Also, the company is fully remote. We're 11 people, I think, in 7 time zones, right? So it means we also need to give a bit of extra in our communication. I need to experiment all the time. What works for me the best, what works for me maybe not doesn't work. So I need to get rid of this. I try to not work too much. I try to keep it between 6-7 hours. So I have long days, wake up really early, try to have a short working session before sports. Then let's say in late morning, early afternoon, do surfing, or basically do the things why I love Bali so much. It's some community things or sports. Yeah, as I said, surfing, going to some nice places, and then work in the afternoon and trying to finish not very late so I can also enjoy the social life and go to sleep early because next day I need to wake up again like at 6. It's a challenge, and thank you for asking. But to be honest, I love it. I enjoy it so much. There are some times when I'm stressed. There are also some times when I think there's too much on my plate, but I love it. I feel so fulfilled, and I'm so happy to be here in Bali where I can enjoy the life outside the work as well. And I'm in this part of my life when I'm doing the work which fires me up, and then I'm finished work. I have activities which also fire me up. And when I'm tired of them, I just go back to work, which, keeps me engaged and motivated. So I'm really happy about this. Even though I don't want to confuse anyone, it's hard. It's difficult, but super fun.
Yeah, that's the thing. But what you mentioned there, and I love so much hearing, is the fact that you build your business around your life and not the other way around. Because if we just build something to put food on the table, instead of envisioning a life that we actually want to enjoy and make us fulfill and so on, and build a business that sustains, that's a totally different story. And indeed, entrepreneurship is not easy. If it will be easy, everyone will do it. And I have to ask you, how do you manage to prioritize what's important when it comes to your work to actually fit your day-to-day schedule that you just mentioned?
It's a challenge. I'm trying to have quarterly goals, monthly goals, and some sort of weekly priorities. And usually, when it comes to decide what to work on, I ask myself two questions. Does it contribute to this goal? And for now, again, the goal is mostly about growth. I believe we built a great team for fulfillment, and we're constantly improving our processes, which resulted in 0% churn rate. So all the clients which we have are happy with us. So most of the activities I do are targeted to growth, acquiring new customers and producing content, improving the systems which we have to support us to grow. And the second question which I ask is it a really good time for me as a founder? Is it really a good way to spend my resources as a founder? Is it really the task I should be doing? Because one of the biggest lessons and the biggest mind shifts for when you run a business is that you are a person who manages resources. You need to always be mindful about your time because your goal in your company is to design systems, scale the systems, and come up with the creative solutions. And it's very easy to do something which takes 3 hours, do it yourself, but it's very good question always to ask, is it really a good time for my team? Is it really good time for my business? So a good way to spend my time on that. And based on this, I'm trying to navigate and decide what I'm working on.
Yeah, it's indeed a huge mindset issue because a lot of us are struggling to get out of execution and focus on that creative process. So finding solution, building processes, and actually building reusable frameworks that anyone in the team can follow rather than just getting stuck and at the end of the day realize, oh my God, I work inside my business rather than on the business. And yeah, that's valid for those, for like myself. I don't have a full-time team. I have contractors. And at the beginning, I was struggling with this mindset that I am the best at what I do. I cannot find someone to replace me and so on. And that was bullshit. There are a lot of other way more good at what they do than myself. And speaking of that, how do you find your team members? How do you hire?
The answer is very easy. One of the first priorities, once I could afford it, to hire an HR. And she's working not full time, like hourly based or like let's say task based, but I'm really happy we did it. Like I'm really happy that I knew it's going to be at some cost, but it helps so much. So what I recommend to manage resources better is to just plan them in your budget. So when you build your pricing model, it doesn't matter if you have a startup or if you have an agency, any kind of service business, or even if you're freelancing, just include it to your pricing model. And when you have like the invoice is paid from the client, you put some money on growth, some money on the project cost, some money on operational cost, and from operational cost, you can hire somebody to help you with. Because I believe finding a good person fast, it's one of the biggest challenges which agencies are facing. And I'm so grateful and happy that it's not the situation in Kodebusters.
Yeah, true. Because if you don't think about that, you often end up in a position where you do the hiring. And let's face it, most of us are bad at that. Like we are good at what we do, and just spending time searching for people, hiring them, interviews, and so on. It's not a good use of our time. And you mentioned that you work with team members around 7 or 5 time zones. How do you manage to keep that on track?
From trials and errors, basically, usually I'm the earliest one. So I'm based in Bali. It's Central European time +7 right now in winter. Usually I have deep work in the morning because I have no calls. There is nobody to talk with. When we have overlap, I try to batch all the calls together. So it means like these people also see me in the time of the day when I'm most energetic, right? When I also can give them the biggest value. And then I try to organize asynchronous communication. So my teammates in Europe, and then of the day, they share the progress with me. And then in the morning, I can read it. In Balinese morning, I can read it and take an action. It's, again, I believe when you build a company, especially as a founder, remote setup is not the easiest one. I think if we were sitting in the same room, many of the processes could be significantly improved. But as I said, I'm building a lifestyle business. That's the business which supports me in doing things which I truly enjoy. Therefore, I'm accepting this, I would say, challenges. I'm accepting that I need to be adaptive. I'm accepting that all of us needs to be flexible because all of us can benefit from this. It's a compromise, but for me, it's 100% worth it. I've been working remotely for the last 4 years, and even as a founder, I cannot imagine to just be in one place. I would like to introduce more offsites. So far, we just had one, but I would love to do it every quarter to bring people together in some nice place for a few days to work together, to get to know each other a bit better. This definitely helps.
It's not an easy fit to run a remote first company, but at the end of the day, as you mentioned, you build a lifestyle business. And when it comes to managing all these things, there are any tools that are helping you to streamline the processes and you can recommend for others to use?
To be honest, I try to use as few tools as possible. So what would probably take the most of your time as a founder is these things which you don't expect, this accounting, invoicing, paying salaries. So for everyone, I would strongly recommend to start with this and automate, find a solution. So with this, I cannot recommend tools because it depends where your company is registered, especially for accounting and invoicing. I recommend you to do some research and find what's the best for your country where the company is registered. But this will really, once your business is scaling, let's say if it's an agency or a studio, and you have a few employees and a few clients, just to match these two with terms of finances will be a nightmare. So start there. When it comes to communication and organization of work, we're using Notion. I've never been a fan of Notion, but I started to kind of appreciate it more right now, especially when they introduced the calendar, which is really nicely integrated with the main app with documentation. Miro, Notion, all the classic apps, which I guess most of the people are familiar with. I'm kind of every time when I have a task and I'm thinking, okay, which tool to use, I always ask which tool I can use now. What can I use to do the task at this exact moment? I don't want to have onboarding. I don't want to get used to another tool. Even if it's outdated, there are better alternatives. It will take me 1 week to find out how to use it. No, the task needs to be now. And then at some point, if you feel like we're limited, we can switch. And another thing which I'm using a lot is Loom. When you create videos, you can share your screen. There is like a little circle with your face. And instead of making a call, sending a Loom is amazing. They have a free version, so I recommend everyone to try it. You can save a lot of time just sending Looms instead of videos for both internal and external communication. In general, you have to be very disciplined, but in remote work, you need to be extra disciplined. And for every conversation, there should be a place for that. If you have conversation about this topic, that's about design, let's do it in Figma. There are comments for that. If it's about the project, let's do it in Notion because this is the place for the Notion, for discussions of the project. If it's about a ticket for software developer, it depends on the issue tracker you use. If it's emergency, okay, you can call me, you can send me on Telegram. whatever, you can scream, right? But it's really important to have this kind of guidelines, because when everything falls to one channel, good luck with that. You'll never find what's important and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely on you with that. And indeed, almost all the communication has, as you mentioned, its own place, and almost every single email or meeting could be like a short message in the specific app that you are actually working on, not just and Loom. Oh my God, like such a time saver. They were so smart when they come up with the concept, because of course now there are a lot of alternatives, but Loom is still probably the easiest one to use straight out of the box. And that's so important, as you mentioned, getting a tool and be able to start using it now, not 1 week of onboarding, going through a lot of how-tos and so on. I know that you're a big fan of no code. And what platforms or tools are you using in order to build products?
We're using Bubble, Flutterflow, Framer, and WeWeb for backend. So this is currently our current project.
Why use Framer instead, for example, of Webflow?
To be honest, Framework gives way more flexibility for non-developers. With Framer is more intuitive for people who are not technical, even though it's relatively easy tool to use, also Webflow. I don't think one is particularly better than another. We also did some projects on Webflow. I believe Framework is just a bit more intuitive. It also depends on the preferences of your team. I believe when it comes to stack, sometimes it happens that you find a person for the stack, or sometimes you find stack for the person. If you have an amazing team who is building amazing stuff in Webflow, of course I will just go with Webflow instead of Framework.
Yeah, that's a really good reason. And what I found out as well about Webflow, it's indeed that after you deliver a project, it's quite hard for end client to make changes if they don't have the developers on board and so on. Even that it's a drag and drop tool, you still need to be familiar with some terms and workflows. And for example, when it comes to your ICP, who is that? Can you be really specific so those listening can say, oh, that's me. I want to work with Gleb right now?
If I will try to make it as narrow as possible, it's a person who's been in tech for some time. Maybe they built career in engineering or in product management. Person with a great idea, which they want to implement, and they, based on their experience and their knowledge, they believe there is a business potential. They might know a bit about the business, or they might know a bit about marketing. They might know even a bit about technology, but they cannot do this turnkey solution to bring into success. So these people, I would say, my ideal client for the service which we offer to launch a product. And the second ICP, I know there should be only one, but right now I have two, is a startup which has already found their product market fit, and they're struggling to scale. They're looking for new opportunities. They don't have a stable revenue source. Let's say the revenue is coming, but they cannot rely on this that much. They're looking for more opportunities. It's a company which perhaps also grew a little bit, so they need to pay to people. And in order to scale and find new business opportunities, in order to bring their product to the next level, this is also where we can help.
And if any of you watching or listening rings a bell, you can get in touch with Gleb on Kodebusters.com with K, and you can find him on LinkedIn.
Sure, hit me up. I would love to get to know you. I'm sure that community of this podcast is just great people to hang out with. So I'll be really keen to get to know you better.
Awesome. And I'll put the links in the show notes as well. And to wrap things up, I'd love to ask you to give a short challenge for those listening that are at that stage of post validation. With the first step for them in order to get that MVP up and running as fast as possible?
I would challenge them to use AI tools, which will help you to build a prototype, which will help you to build copy for the website, which will also help you even build the first version of the website. I will challenge you to build your product in 1 week using AI generated user experience, then AI generated code. Maybe for some of the tools you will have to pay a little bit, for some of the tools are for free. I would like you to break your illusions and become very realistic about how real world is going to meet your product. I would like you to kill perfectionist inside you. And again, right now, it's never been easier to launch a product. And I strongly recommend and challenge you to do it.
Yeah, especially because that perfectionism kills so many dreams and so many great ideas. What would be your go-to AI tools for that so they can use them?
ChatGPT is the first one for sure for market research, competitor analysis, to come up with the first list of user stories with user personas. For UI, I would recommend UIZard, like Wizard, but UIZard. It can help you to do the UI from, let's say, from an example, maybe even from the sketch. And to implement it to real code, there is a tool it's called /draw, something like that. It also turns sketches into code. And recently I found another app which I have not tested myself, but it's called Marlable, something like this. It also creates web apps from the prompt.
Man, we live in an amazing world right now.
Every day when I learn about this, I cannot believe my eyes, like what's going on? Things are moving so fast. But again, I cannot stop repeating that without proper product foundation, without really addressing customer needs, not inventing a problem, but solving a problem, it doesn't matter how amazing the tech is. My favorite products and my favorite businesses are like really old school. When you take something from insurance or lawyers or car services, like some industries which have been there for centuries, and then you have technology to offer elegant solution. This is, for me, they cannot fail because the problem been around for so long, and you just give the solution. Often people invent problems and then they build solutions for invented problems. And the way to find it out, launch and see how people react.
Indeed, you live in an amazing world. And thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge and go-to tools. I'm sure those listening, if they start using them and apply what they learned today, they are on the right track to actually launch their idea.
Thank you so much, Gabe. It's been amazing. I'm really happy to be on this podcast, connect with your community. I wish everyone good luck with their products. As you said, we live in an interesting time and curious people will be rewarded, I believe. So get curious, learn about technology, see where it's going. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know, hit me up.
You, yes, you're one of the few that stick to the end. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing so. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so below. And if you got any value from this, please share it with a friend. They might got some value from it as well. Thank you so much, and until next week, pura vida!